welcome to a new episode, a new series, and thank you for joining us. So basically, the topic we are going into now is polynomials. Polynomials, right? I believe, especially if you're in senior secondary school, you should have heard of this polynomial by now, right? And under polynomials, we will focus majorly on factor and remainder theorem. We'll focus majorly on the factor and the remainder theorem. But obviously, before we go into that, I'll just do a little introduction and an explanation on what polynomials are generally. And we'll look at some of the basic things we need to know about polynomials in this video. Then maybe if we have time, we'll go into factor theorem or we'll do that in a new video. So welcome. If you're new to this channel, please do well to subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button and hit the notifications bell as well, so that whenever we have new content on this channel, you'll be notified to come and watch and learn something new. What we do here is to break down mathematics and help you understand it, make it easy for you to follow and to grasp it. All right, don't forget to um, always come here every week to check out our new videos. Share the link of this channel to your friends so that they also come and watch and become better at mathematics and pendulum and I'm your tutor on this channel. All right, thank you for being here, and let's proceed without further ado. So when we talk of polynomials, before we go to the factor theorem, let's focus on this side. When we talk of polynomials, basically this word is divided into two. All right, this is a Greek word, and basically it's divided into two. So we have poly, which means many. All right, whenever you hear poly, it means many. For example, polytechnic means a place where many disciplines are studied. Polymer means a material made up of many constituents or components. So poly means many. And then nomial here means terms. So basically polynomial means many terms. So I think this spelling I put up here initially is wrong. It's polynomials, not polynomials. So this spelling here is wrong. Don't mind me. Should be polynomials. Yes, that's the right spelling. Alright, so polynomials means many terms. Many terms. It's basically a branch of mathematics where we look at expressions with multiple terms. Okay, so basically a polynomial is composed of variables, constants, and exponents. A good example of a polynomial, for instance, is one that we are all very familiar with and which we have even done on this channel, a quadratic expression, something like this, for instance. All right. Now, this is a very good example of a polynomial. And like I said, you're familiar with this. We've even done how to solve polynomials like this on this channel. Now, polynomials have, there are different layers to them, and I'll be breaking all of them down. But basically, polynomials can be resolved by mathematical methods, mathematical operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and all of them. All right. And now let me take a little time to explain the parts and components of a polynomial. All right. Now, the first thing I will start with, we have what we call, I told you polynomials are made up of variables. Let me write it down here so you can see made up of variables, constants, and exponents. Polynomials are made up of variable, constant, and exponent. Now, a variable is a term whose value is unknown. So basically, variables are indeterminate terms in an expression. For instance, in this expression here, our variables are x squared and x. All right, these are the terms here which we do not know their value. That's why we say they are variables. Their values are indeterminate. We don't know them. So they could be anything. X here could be anything at all. And you have to solve to now find the actual value of x. So variables are terms which are indeterminate, which we do not know their value, which we ultimately need to solve for. And from this, we know that, or we can tell that polynomials in general are of two forms. We have polynomials of the same variable or of similar variable. Let me say polynomials of same variable and then we have polynomials of different variables. All right. So on a general note, polynomials are of two forms. We have polynomials of same variable and polynomials of different variables. Now, what do we mean by polynomials of same variable? For instance, this expression here, you can see that the only variable here is x. Across all the terms here, or across two of the three terms here, you can see that there's x. All right. So this is a polynomial of the same variable. All right, you have only one variable here repeated across several terms. So we call this type of polynomial a polynomial of the same variable. But you can also have a polynomial like this, for instance, 5x squared plus 2y minus 2. All right, for instance, you can have a polynomial like this. And this is an example of a polynomial of different variables. All right, in this case, now I have 5x squared plus 2x minus 2. You can see that there are two variables here. There is x and there is y. Two different variables. Okay, so these are basically the two general forms of polynomials. The same variables, different variables. And the way to solve them are vastly different. All right, the ones with same variable are generally easier to solve since it's the same thing or the same variable, the same thing you're looking for. It's usually easier to resolve. All right, if it's a, okay, we'll get there. But these ones that have different variables, they are much more difficult to solve. They are solvable, but they are more difficult to solve. All right, so but what you need to take note of here, we have polynomials of the same variable and polynomials of different variables. Okay, now that's one thing. We'll talk of variables. Now we also have constants. Constants are the parts of a polynomial whose values cannot change. When we say something is constant, of course, it means it is not changing. It is unchanging. So this 7 here, for instance, is a constant, right? This 7 here, for instance, is a constant. The value of this 7 throughout this polynomial, no matter how long you solve this thing for, this 7 will remain 7. It doesn't change. Here again, this 2 is also a constant. It will not change. This k is the symbol for constant in mathematics. All right, so minus 2 plus 7 here, they are constants. Their values will not change. Then exponents talk about powers. Power. So this raised to power 2 here is an exponent. This raised to power 2 here is an exponent. All right. So if I come here now, 5x squared plus 2y cubed, for instance, this cube here is an exponent, is a power. All right. So that's the simple thing you need to know. And then there's also what we call coefficients, which I believe you should know at this stage, especially if you're in secondary school. Coefficients are these numbers attached to a variable. The number attached to a variable is the coefficient of that variable. So here that you have 2x squared, 2 here is the coefficient of x squared. Here that you have 3x, 3 is the coefficient of x. Constants don't have variables, so they are just on their own. 5x squared here, 5 is the coefficient. 2y cubed here, 2 is the coefficient. The coefficient is a number attached to a variable, or if I want to say it simply, the number attached to a letter. That's the coefficient. All right. And so I talked about polynomials of the same variable, polynomials of different variables, and so that's that. Then we have now when we talk of terms here, I think I've mentioned it before. These terms here just means like the different parts of a polynomial. The different parts of a polynomial. For instance, this one here that we'll be using, 2x squared minus 3x plus 7. This has three terms. 2x squared is one term, 2x squared is one term, minus 3 is another term, plus 7 is another term. So this particular expression here has three terms. All right. So that's what we mean by terms of a polynomial. The different parts of the polynomial. If you are to break that polynomial into parts, how many parts will it be? That's the terms. So for instance, this one has three terms. There are some that can have 4 terms, 5 terms, and this leads us to all these terms or the number of terms they have names. So let me scroll this up a bit. Okay, let me just do it here. All right. So these terms of a polynomial, they have names. We say the terms of a polynomial are the parts of that polynomial or the parts of that polynomial expression that are, separate or, different from each other, and they are usually separated by plus or minus signs. So if you're given an expression just like you have here, and you have to break it into its terms, just look for where there are plus and minus signs. Those plus and minus signs usually serve like, let's say, the fence that divides this expression into different terms or into different parts. So if you come here now, 2x squared is 1, there's a minus sign here, That means this is another term. There's a plus sign here. This last one, 7, is another term. All right. So the terms are the different ways or the different parts that an expression can be broken into, and they're usually separated by plus or minus signs. Okay. And these terms have names. The number of terms have names. So if a polynomial has only one term, what do I mean by that? If, for instance, you have just something like 5x, for instance. If you have something like 5x, for instance, just 5x, for instance. Now, you can see that this is a polynomial, quite alright, and this polynomial has only one term. Alright, it has only one term. So we call this a monomial. We call this a, sorry, not my, monomial. I don't know what's wrong with my spellings today. Mono means one, right? Alright, mono means one, so monomial. It means a polynomial with only one term. Okay, let me put it in brackets here, one term. That's a monomial. Alright, now what if there are two terms? For instance, I have 6x minus 2. Now, of course, this would not be a binomial. Of course, bi means two. Bicycle, binoculars, and all of that. So bi means two. So a binomial is a polynomial that has two terms. Just as you can see here. Here we have 6x and we have minus 2. So there are two terms. What if I have three terms? Maybe like this one here, for instance. Okay. Let me use, maybe I have minus 8a squared plus 2x minus 7. Now you can see that this has three terms. Minus 8a squared is one term, plus 2x is another term, minus 7 is another term. Three terms. And we call this a trinomial. Remember, tri means three. Tricycle, triathletes, all these things. So this is three terms. Okay, three terms. If it has three terms, it's a trinomial. The same way it keeps going. All right. So if it has four terms, it's a quadrinomial. It's a quadrinomial. If it has four terms, we'll call it quadrinomial. Quadrinomial. If it has four terms, we'll call it a quadrinomial. Right? It has four terms. Now, of course, the complexity of this is getting bigger and bigger with time. It's getting, so this will not be maybe something like 3x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x minus 7. Now, this is an example of a quadrinomial. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a quadrinomial. All right. And if it has 5, it says a pentanomial. Just like that, it keeps increasing. It keeps increasing. If it has 5, we'll call it a pentanomial. If it has 5 terms, we'll call it a pentanomial. That's 5 terms. Right? 5 terms, and so on and so forth. Hexanomial, heptanomial, octanomial, just like that. That's 6 terms, 7 terms, 8 terms, and just like that. All right. So just in case you come across this anywhere, monomial means one term, binomial means 2 terms, trinomial means 3 terms, quadrinomial means 4 terms, pentanomial means 5 terms. All right. So this is, and I said terms means the parts of a polynomial expressions, usually separated by plus or minus signs. So whenever you see an expression, look at where you have minus sign. This is one term, this is 2, this is another term, this is another term. 4 terms, quadrinomial. All right. This is 3 terms, trinomial. 2 terms, binomial. 1 term, monomial, and like that, like that. All right. So you know that, of course, from 2 terms is poly. Poly means many.